Hello, and welcome to the Culture Beats podcast, featuring conversations about pop culture and many other aspects of life. I'm your host, Chris Bournet. In this very special episode, I speak with Kim Goodwin Martin, daughter of wrestling legend Marva Scott. Marva, along with her older sisters Babs Wingo and Ethel Johnson, were the first black women to integrate professional wrestling in the 1950s. They were the Jackie Robinson of wrestling. If you want to know more about the Wingo sisters and their contributions to Black history, women's history, sports history, and history in general, check out the Lady Wrestler documentary on Prime Video. In this second part of my new interview with Kim for the podcast, we delve further into her family's enduring legacy and the work that Kim and her family are doing to bring more awareness to the amazing accomplishments of her mom and her aunts. Before we get into the conversation, I just wanted to let you know that I'll be taking a little break from posting new episodes during the holidays, but Culture Beats will be back in January. Enjoy your holiday season. And without further ado, here's part 2 of my conversation with Kim Goodwin Martin. There's been so many things that have unfolded over the years. I mean, we can talk about your aunt Ethel being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, which was very interesting.
Yeah, that was. See, it's funny now.
Yeah.
But listen, when it happened, it wasn't funny.
Right,
oh my God,
right,
it was
right.
not funny. And just to be honest, because that's the part of it. You know, you got to be transparent, right?
Yeah.
So when my aunt Ethel actually was put into the WWE Hall of Fame, we're supposed to be excited about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I don't want.
This is something we found out about after the fact as well.
Well, that she was even being inducted.
Yeah.
Like,
they didn't contact your family and say, "Hey, heads up, we want to induct your aunt or your mother or whatever." And it was just like, "Oh, somebody pings you and says, did you know your aunt is being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame?"
Listen, it was worse than that, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my daughter wanted to watch it. I don't really watch.
Yeah.
Right? Again, it was a God thing. I turn it on, and they're like the Legacy of Champions. And right when I turned it on, they were going right into my aunt. And they go, the first black female wrestler ever, Ethel Johnson. And her picture pops up, right? And I'm like, oh my God. But then they said the first. And then I saw the picture of my Aunt Babs underneath my Aunt Ethel.
So they had misplaced. They had like put your Aunt Babs's picture in place of your Aunt Ethel, and that's because they didn't contact your family and get their facts straight.
I would like to think that is what it is.
Okay.
But truly, I don't know what they were doing. Right?
I don't think they knew what they were doing.
I don't know.
Yeah,
and then okay, so that was one mistake, right? And so I was like, oh my God, they just erased my Aunt Babs' history, right? And so I'm like, okay. So now they said, and she's known for the standing drop kick. And it was a totally different wrestler doing the standing
Someone
drop
not even
kick.
related to your family.
Not
Sandy
related.
Parker.
Sandy Parker, great big afro.
Yeah.
Was not my Aunt Ethel.
Yeah, and taking nothing away from Sandy Parker, she's a legend in her own right,
is.
but she's her own person. She's not your Aunt Ethel, and her image shouldn't be used to depict your Aunt Ethel.
Right, and you showing her doing the drop kick that my aunt taught her how to do.
Right.
Yeah. But again, my family did not talk about it, right? And I was just under the assumption that they should have known. So I was so upset. Like, how are you going to erase my Aunt Babs' history and then put the wrong wrestler in to do a drop kick? Like, what?
Yeah.
What in the world? So we were so upset. You know, what they didn't know is that we had connections.
Right.
They didn't know that, you know. And my cousin Shelly actually called them, got somebody on the phone, and let them know. And they were like, I mean, you know, I was so mad. I went at them. I went at them hard. And I will be the first to say that is not, you should never make moves on emotions, people. Don't do it, right? Because when you make emotional moves, you say things and you make assumptions, but they really had to have that coming to them, right? They needed to know that they messed up, and they found out that they messed up. And they said they were going to do a rebroadcast, but they didn't. They just took it down. But what they didn't realize is you took it down, but I still have it.
Right.
I got it on record. I recorded it. I record everything. Anything that has to do with my family, you best believe I'm on it.
Right.
When they said Ethel Johnson, I said record, right? Because I'm like, oh my God, my cousins don't even know. I had to literally call my family to say, hey, they just put your mom in the Hall of Fame. However, but that's just part of the business, and I'm learning that, but I'm also learning that if you keep quiet, then you won't be heard.
Yeah.
But I also feel like they kind of picked at me a little bit. You know what I mean? Because there would be things like they would put my mother on their website.
And your mother, Marva Scott, was actually in a video game, right?
Yeah. Okay, so
that's yet another thing that.
Yeah. So that was the first thing that popped up, a video game. Listen, I'm like, what? Now wait a minute. Now you do get royalties on video games. Let's not play them games. Right. But I realized that it depends on who buys it. Okay, so it's supposed to be the Wii game, right? And she is supposed to be a character on the Wii. You don't know how many Wii games I bought. I still have my Wii set up, but I can't find their store's closed, so you can't go on their store and buy anything because Wii is no longer existence, right? But if you ever Google anything, you will see where people have created video games and characters with them. Right. So, but up to this point, they're not on a game that I know of at this point. But like when they do those little character makes and character orders and all of that, it kind of puts you in a gray area. So that was the one thing. I'm like, what? Now they got a game out? And then WWE named her number 51 of the best wrestlers of all time.
Wow.
Right? Wow. They named my mom that. And so all I did was just keep the information, but people tell me like they was just baiting to see if you would bite. But bite from what? I mean, like you said, she was number 51. I was like, why 51? But I was glad she was in there, and she was on their actual website because, again, the only way you know about them is to see them and to hear about them.
Right.
But that was a rough time for our family because we had just lost my Aunt Ethel too, know. And then it was just like it just felt like we were disrespected.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I learned this past year with all of my moving around and
advocacy.
The advocacy and being the guardian of the legacy and meeting the people that make the movies and just being in those circles that if you don't say it, they don't know it.
Yep, exactly.
So whenever you have the opportunity to tell them, then share your information. And then that may help. And also tell your own story. If you want your story told, tell it yourself.
Absolutely.
Then you don't have to worry about, things, the names being wrong or misused or, or the wrong picture in the photo.
Right. Well, I mean, your family story is just so cinematic and there are just so many different chapters. Like you had told me at one point that Spike Lee approached your mom about wanting to do a biopic. There was, after the whole, I don't want to call it a debacle, but the whole situation with WWE, A&E, the cable network, actually approached me and said, hey, we want to do a Black History moment about Ethel Johnson. Can you send us some photos? So they had a little 1-minute, biography of your aunt on A&E. And the producer from A&E Cable Channel who contacted me was like, is anyone working on a biopic about these three sisters? Someone needs to do that. Every year, Black History Month, Women's History Month.
They blow up.
Yeah, while they're still in existence.
Part.
Yeah. But just this past year, a local TV station, Channel 10, they did a segment about your mom and your aunts. So I mean, that just goes to show it's your family story is a timeless story. It's a perennial story. There's perennial interest in it. Anytime I'm anywhere and I mention the story of the Wingo sisters, people are just fascinated by it. People of all races, all over the world. I went to Cannes in France with a documentary. People from all over the world. I would tell them about your family story, and they'd be like, "Wow, that really needs to be a movie."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like layers.
Uh-huh.
Because wrestling was one thing that they did, right? They were
Yeah.
still mothers.
Yeah.
They were wives.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, they were raising children,
Mhm.
you know, trying to be a wife and wrestling. So they had, like, you know, when you have two different lives, they really had two different lives. They had the wrestling life, then they had the motherhood life and the wife life, and, you know. And to juggle and balance that during those times when women didn't even work,
Yeah.
you know, you had to be married and, you know, you stayed home and all of that.
Or you did some kind of, you know, and no putting no aspersions on it, but you did a very run-of-the-mill job like being a domestic or, you know,
Yeah.
being a waitress or
Yep. I
something
think
like that.
the biggest thing they could aspire to at that time was being a teacher.
Right,
Like being a
right.
teacher or a nurse
Right.
was like the pinnacle of your,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
a secretary,
Yeah.
a nurse, or a teacher.
Right, exactly.
You
You
know.
went to typing school,
Yes.
or you went to what they called normal school to become a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
And instead of doing any of that, because they were in high school, they didn't even go to college, they were making money.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going traveling all over the world. And could you just imagine going to somewhere like Australia
Yeah,
and Japan and Cuba? You don't even speak Spanish.
yeah,
But
yeah.
some of the stories that my uncle told me about my Aunt Ethel, about her and my mother, they loved to dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was talking to my Uncle Charles, he was sharing with me how my aunt would go away, and when she would come back, she wanted to do these dances. So she knew how to do the tango.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And,
And
so,
she, being so athletic, I mean,
oh my God.
she could just
But-
nail the tango. I'm sure.
Yeah, and so they loved to dance. So she did the tango, and he said, you know, she taught him how to do the tango, and it reminded me of all the fond memories of my mom when I was young. And she, you know, she taught me how to cha-cha. You know, those aren't the dances that we were doing in the United States. But she was like, 1, 2, cha-cha-cha, you know, because they would go all over the world and they would have an opportunity to see how other people lived, what they did for entertainment, you know, their food, how they, I mean, all of that. Like my mother's experience in Japan was a bittersweet one, but when she talked about the good times of Japan, she talked about how, you know, the metric system was in play. And she was learning everything about the metric system because remember, they were going to bring the metric system here.
Right.
So she was there trying to buy us shoes and clothes and trying to figure out sizes. And
Yeah.
she talked about how, the first day she was excited, and then when she found out that they flipped the script on her, she was no longer excited about it. As a matter of fact, she said she started fighting for her life. So every morning she would get up and she would run. And she would take this run, and she said she would run past the rice fields, and she would see all the people out in the rice fields working. And she said she would just be looking, and it would be mostly women out there working. And she said it just, just blew her mind. Like, is there anything else that they can do? Besides have babies and work in rice fields,
Yeah.
And she was supposed to be the star when she was there. She was on this poster. She was the biggest person on the poster. So the size of your fonts and the size of your picture determines whether
Right.
who you are.
Right.
And so on this poster, she's like 3D, right? And she was supposed to be the star. But once she got in the ring and she began wrestling, it took a racial turn, which usually when they're in places like that, it happens. But now we in the we in the 70s now,
Right,
we're
right.
not in the 60s,
Right.
And so she went there, and my mother had blonde hair because my mother was the one who would try all the different costumes and different hairstyles and different looks. And at that time, my mother's hair was straight. So she had what we call a relaxer. And she said, she was like, what are they saying? Because they couldn't speak English.
Right.
But they was, Nikki Rowe, pressy hair, Nikki Rowe, pressy hair. She said, what? What are you talking about? And then she said they got, and people say that they're docile and all of this, because I've heard that, like, oh no. But my mother explained it to me like it went from sweet to crazy.
Wow.
To the degree that they wanted to throw my mother out to the audience. Well, with her previous experience, that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Because she knows if she's outside of that rope, she on her own. So she was supposed to win. She was the champion. She's the headliner. But they wanted her to throw the match, and they wanted her to lose.
Right.
In order to lose, they had to throw her out of the ring. The Japanese girls are way smaller than my mom, right? They're real petite and small. My mother said she was just tossing them out like, like a sack of potatoes. Yeah. She said every day I went to run, every day. She said I ran 2 miles every morning. I ran past them rice fields, and I said when I get in that ring, woo-wee, it's going down, and the mob, or whoever the promoters were in Japan.
By the mob, you mean the mafia.
The mafia.
Yeah.
The Japanese were very upset because we got a lot of money now. We're talking about money, you guys. We're not talking, we can forget all the racism stuff. We're talking about money.
Yeah.
Money is what it's about, right? And so if my mother refused to lose the match, they threatened to kill her. Like, we need you to lose the match, because not only did they have money coming in, they was betting on the match, right? But that was a match they was never going to win because she was never going to lose. That was just something she was not going to do. But that whole experience changed her whole life. When she came back, she only wrestled in the States. She no longer left, the United States to wrestle. She wrestled out her remaining years here, and she retired in 79.
And that just goes to show how many obstacles your family had to overcome. There was first the part of being a woman, which Mildred Burke faced, but then the double whammy of being a black woman. I mean, it's just amazing the things that your family overcame. And like you said, thank God they were young when they started, because if they had had more life experience and had seen more, they probably, maybe they wouldn't have even gone into wrestling.
Or it would have been a whole different scenario. Like my Uncle Charles was one of the drivers for them when they were younger. And see, these are the stories that, I keep to myself, because it's you, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and let that out.
Give me the
But
insight.
my uncle was one of the drivers, and he would talk about how, like, he would be in the car with him, and, they'd go somewhere, and, we got to be here by sundown, and how my mother and my aunts and them would be like, we going out.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, no, we can't go out. Yeah. But they always, want to push the button,
Yeah.
But once they would get into the sundown towns, and they followed the green book.
And sundown towns, just for those who may not be familiar, is N-word, don't let the sun set on you here. It was like,
black folks, if it get dark, you might get killed.
Yeah.
So you need to be in by sundown.
Right.
And so there were certain areas you could not go.
Because lynching was a sport.
It was. It was just something that they did. They just lynched for, like you said, for sport.
Yeah.
So they had to be in-house and out of the areas by a certain time.
Right.
But they also used the green book. And the green book is where it let African American and black people know they could stay and be safe, right? So when they go to hotels or they travel, they couldn't just check in the Holiday Inn because of discrimination. So there would be like Uncle Earl's spot, and Uncle Earl would have a big house, and Uncle Earl would let them come in and stay there, and they would pay Uncle Earl or whoever it was, like a rooming house. But in that rooming house, it would be all the other black entertainers, right?
Right.
So like some of the people they traveled with was Little Richard.
And it's a funny story that Little Richard taught a lot of the lady wrestlers how to do their makeup.
He absolutely did. He taught my Aunt Ethel how to do her makeup.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. He did, and they had
to bail him out of jail. They had to
bail him out of jail too.
Because from what I heard, he was considered a quote unquote drag queen, and you couldn't. That was illegal
do that
back then. Yeah,
you couldn't do that, and Little Richard was just going to do Little Richard.
You
know, no matter what, he was going to do. So they had to go get him out of jail.
Right.
Yeah, but so like the backstories are like fantastic.
Yeah.
They always came behind Ike and Tina Turner. Like the Ike and Tina Turner review.
Yeah.
Like if they were there Saturday or that weekend, the following weekend, my mom and them would be there. They would be there with Nat King Cole and
Harlem
Globetrotters and Fats Domino,
Ray
Charles. Yeah, all of that. The
Chitlin Circuit.
Yes, and they were all part of that.
Yeah, like the movie Sinners, they depict those Chitlin Circuit kind of establishments.
The juke joints all of that. So that was, my uncle talked about how, sometimes he'd be like, girl, because they'd be running to get back, but in all of it, they stayed safe. For the most part. There were some things that happened now,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But they were they were very, I mean, they were, you talk about self-defense. I mean, they very much knew how to take care of themselves and how to stand up for themselves. And they did a lot of things like refusing, they got tired of the segregation with the audiences, and they made stands and said, look, we're black, we're not going to let you keep denying entrance to the black ticket holders. You know, they deserve to come in and watch the show like everyone else. So they actually took stands.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They were a part of the movement.
Mm-hmm. The civil rights movement.
That's exactly why today everybody can sit at a wrestling match and watch it no matter what your race.
Motown didn't even do that. You didn't hear about Diana Ross saying, I'm not going on stage unless you let all the black people, you know, not be in the balcony where it's segregated. Or,
right.
Yeah.
Right. One mother told me, she was like, they were at a barn and they were up top. And she was looking out the window, and she said, you know, all the white patrons would come in, but when the black patrons would come in, she'd see them walking back. So she hollered out the window, like, hey, where are you going? And they said they won't let us in. And so my mom and my aunt Ethel said, well, we're not performing. Okay, so let me tell you, when they did that, it got real, right? Because everybody had been paid.
About money.
It's about money.
Yeah.
So if they don't go on, then them people are going to tear up they're going to tear that place up. If they do go on, and they go on in front of just a white audience, then it's a danger. It's dangerous because not only did they see them turning away, they heard them talking about the white knights, which was another name for the Ku Klux Klan. Right? And so, you know, there was no way that they was going to perform in front of all white people when they had heard that the Klans and the, you know, were in the vicinity. Like, no. So they refused to go on. They allowed the blacks to come in, which was great. My mother and them was feeling that pride, you know, say it loud, you know. They wrestled and gave a great show. A great show. But following that show, they literally ran out of the studio. They always had a handler, and when they were down south, they had a white handler. So this handler, you know, his name was it was either Mr. Howard or maybe Billy Wolf's son or one of those. I'm not sure who the handler was, but I know it wasn't my Uncle Charles because it was a Caucasian. So when they came out, you know, they threw covers over them. Like they came out the ring, you know, they go behind the curtain, they threw curtains on them, covers over them, ran them straight out the back. Mr. Howard had the car there, the door open, and they laid in the floorboards and drove past all of the calamity. Drove right out of the violence.
It's so many stories. I mean, we could just be sitting here talking for hours. But tell people more about your website and the, you know, the advocacy work you're doing to
Okay, so if you because listen, I'm sorry, Chris, I'm going to overtalk you. But one of the things about it is, you know, there are a lot of good stories too, and the fact that they made history was phenomenal to me. And if you want to know more about them, you can log on to my website. It is www.thewingosisters.com. I'm also on Instagram, and you can follow me under Lady Wrestler, Marva Scott, Lady Wrestler. Wait, let me make sure you got this right. You can follow me under Marva Official, the official _ Marva Scott, Lady Wrestler on Instagram. So you can follow me on there. I put a lot of stuff on there. You can also reach out. My goal is to get them into the Smithsonian, even though they're trying to take things out.
Yeah, the National Black Afro-American History Museum.
Yes, because they belong there. And guess what? I'm saying it here because it's going to happen. They also belong right here in Columbus on the Longstreet Wall, which, you know, should be an automatic. I have a space picked out. Just let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, and just so people know who are maybe not from Columbus, the Longstreet Wall is a cultural, I don't know what you would call it. Mural, there you go. With depicting all the famous people from Columbus and community leaders, people like Amos Lynch, who was the publisher of the Call and Post newspaper, one of the legendary black newspapers. So I actually worked for early in my career. But yes, so yeah.
Yeah, so they belong on that. Remember, they were discovered on Longstreet. Or was it Mount Vernon? It might have been Mount Vernon.
That whole area.
That whole area, the King Arts community now, or Lincoln.
King Lincoln District, which like we said, it was the Columbus version of Harlem back in the day.
They deserve to be on that, or a street sign or something, you know.
Absolutely, all of the above.
And they definitely belong in the history museums, and you know, and in the HOFs, all of the Hall of Fames, whether it's Wrestling Hall of Fames, they belong there because before them, no one was doing it, you know. And so when I think about where we are now and I think about the movie,
Mm-hmm.
I just have to say how one time I went to see it, and they had the red carpet review in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and they had the AEW wrestlers, the WWE wrestlers, the NXT wrestlers, the Fourth Rope Wrestling group. It was every wrestling group and organization. And I had never in my life been surrounded by so many bad women.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean bad women.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the past because I saw my mom and them in the movie. I saw some other lady wrestlers, Jazz and Trish, the legends. Then I saw the stars of today, Naomi, Trinity for Two.
Yeah. Who Trinity plays your
Trinity
Aunt
for
Ethel.
Two, who actually plays my Aunt Ethel in the movie.
Or Evelyn, as they say.
Yeah, or Evelyn in the movie.
Yeah.
Trinity for Two. I had an opportunity to meet her and her husband. I met Althena, and I think she's with AEW. I met Thunder Rosa, and she was the first Puerto Rican lady wrestler, and so just in a room surrounded by the legacy that my family created was magical.
Yeah.
Like for a month, like I had to stop and go, like, really, my family is the reason that this is happening. It felt like it was an upside down pyramid, and I could literally see them three and everybody else coming up out of them.
The Wingo sisters are the foundation from which
Yes.
everyone else
Yes,
sprang out
and
of.
so
Yeah.
and so, and I mean, and it was wrestlers of all nationalities. And if you haven't watched wrestling, you really should,
Yeah.
because Jade Cargill, Bianca Blair, Naomi, she just retired. Trish, those girls and ladies are doing it. Like, they took what my family did and made it 4.0. They climbing up ladders, jumping off ropes, slamming each other, flipping, like getting on ropes, crawling up, taking each other and doing a backflip. 2 or 3 people doing a backflip on somebody on the ground. I'm like, what in the world? But I am just so excited to see them because they remind me of what wrestling was when my mother wrestled.
Right.
It was, everybody loved the guys. Now, don't get it wrong. They love the guys. But the ladies bring a whole new dimension because their athleticism is better than the guys.
They had to be in order to even get on the bill. They had to be better than
And
the guys.
so now they are headlining and they're marqueeing, And I know if my mother was here right now, I can feel her. That's why I'm smiling because that's what she would be doing. She'd be like, yes, this is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's not just wrestling that your mom and your aunts paved the way for. Simone Biles, who a lot of people don't know is from Columbus, Olympic gold medal winning gymnast. She, your aunt and Ethel in the documentary talks about they had to learn tumbling techniques and, basically be gymnasts in the ring.
They did.
Venus and Serena Williams, there'd be no Venus and Serena if your mom and aunts hadn't paved the way. So, I mean, it's not just the wrestlers of today, it's all female athletes, especially black female athletes. FloJo, all of them.
Yeah.
Jackie Joyner Kersee.
All of them.
Yeah.
And you know what? The cool thing is, they were ladies.
Yes.
Right? So when you look at these wrestlers now, these is ladies.
Yeah.
Right? They are beautiful, but they will put a hurting on you.
Yeah. But that was part of Billy Wolf's, Jeff Lean, the author of the book Queen of the Ring that the movie's based on. He talked about the sex, muscles, and diamonds formula, where the muscles was, of course, the athletic training, but the sex and the diamonds was like, he wanted them to be like Hollywood starlets. So they had like the etiquette training, and you don't smoke in public, and you don't, use foul language in public.
That's right.
And,
you don't tell nobody you married. You act single. You have to be approachable.
Yeah.
You have to be nice. Now, my mother was a heel. And if you don't know, there's heels and faces, right? Face is the good person, the good guy. Heel is the bad person. My mother was always a heel.
Yeah.
But she had to be a face when she was in public.
Yeah.
So in other words, in the ring, she might do anything. She'll bite you, poke your eye out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, everybody knew that about her. She didn't play.
Right.
Right? But when she stepped out the ring, she'd be, "Hi, how are you? This is great." But she loved being the heel as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
she did.
Well, Kim, was there anything else you wanted to say, or anything else you wanted people to know about there's so they can again watch the history of your family in the Queen of the Ring movie and the Lady Wrestler documentary. You know, we need to get to work on the actual biopic of your family to actually tell the story, you know, more accurately and more in depth. You have your website. What else would you like people to know?
Well, other than that, I would like people to follow me, right? So again, follow me on the official _ Marva Scott Lady Wrestler page on Instagram, and log on to my website, and you can help me get the word out about my family. Share some of the things that they've done, and if you're interested, reach out to me. I am more than happy to talk to you about them, because I realize the only way it's going to be known is for me to get exposure. So I just want to expose the Wingo sisters.
Yeah, so Kim, you do speaking engagements, and I mean, you're a fantastic speaker. You're so great at telling your family's story. So it's just truly been an honor for me over these past 20 years to be included in your family's history, because, as you say in the documentary, I mean, your family was truly a part of Black history. So it's been an honor, and thank you so much for speaking with me.
Oh, anytime. And you guys make sure you check out Chris's movie, Lady Wrestler. If you want to see my Aunt Ethel speaking in her
Yes.
own words, that's the only way you'll get it. So you need to check that out. And again, Queen of the Ring is now on Apple. It's also on other streaming platforms for you to watch. So check it out. And just know that that last match was my Aunt Ethel, and she actually won.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
If you like this video, please leave a comment, share it, and subscribe to my channel.